Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are getting into something that affects all of us, human connection. We're all kind of handed this script from the day we're born, a set of unwritten rules and romantic myths about how relationships are supposed to work. But what happens when that script just doesn't fit? When it leads to more confusion, more conflict, and that sinking feeling that maybe we're the ones who are broken? Well, in this explainer, we're going to tear up that old script. We're going to explore a more conscious, ethical, and honestly, a much more freeing way to connect with each other. So let's just jump right into the deep end with this question. Is love so fragile that it is validated by fidelity? Whoa, that really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? It cuts right to the heart of a huge assumption that most of us just accept. It makes us ask ourselves, what really gives a relationship its value? Is it about following a rule book? Or is it something much, much deeper than that? And this is a feeling so many of us know all too well. We follow the prescribed steps, right? The dating, the milestones, maybe marriage. And yet, something just feels off. We can't figure out why we're not happy or why these big romantic gestures we see in movies fall flat in real life. The source material for this explainer suggests that maybe, just maybe, the problem isn't us. And it's not our partners either. Maybe the problem is the script itself. Okay, so here's our roadmap for how we're going to tackle this. First, we're going to deconstruct all those romantic myths we've been sold. Then, we're going to turn our focus inward to really get to know our own minds and emotions. From there, we'll dig into what it actually means to be responsible in our relationships. We'll learn how to build connections with agreements instead of rules, how to see difficult emotions as allies, and finally, how to really step into the freedom to choose the relationships that we genuinely want. All right, let's start by taking a look at the invisible architecture that shapes our relationships. I'm talking about those unwritten rules, the shoulds and shouldn'ts that we pick up from movies, from society, from our families, a lot of the time without even noticing. And you know what? They are so often the hidden source of our biggest fights and frustrations. So let's get a key term on the table right away: mononorm. Think of this as the factory default setting for romance in our culture. It's this deep-seated assumption that there's only one real path for love, exclusive, moving from dating to marriage, that whole escalator. It's like the water we're swimming in, and it's so powerful that it can make any other way of connecting feel weird or wrong or even broken. It shapes our expectations in ways we don't even see. You see, that old script is super rigid, and it's all about blame. If things go wrong, we're so quick to slap a label on someone, call them toxic. But this new framework, it's all about growth. It shifts our whole focus. Instead of asking, whose fault is this? It asks, are we actually compatible? It lets us say, hey, maybe this just isn't the right fit, and that's okay. It frees us up to stop trying to jam a square peg into a round hole and start building something that really truly works for everyone involved. So if we're going to build these new kinds of relationships, the foundation has to be rock solid. And guess what? That foundation, it's you, it's me, it's each of us individually. Before we can ever hope to connect ethically and deeply with other people, we have to connect with ourselves. The journey, as they say, really is an inside job. All right, I want you to do a quick little exercise with me. No need to say anything out loud. Just answer this in your head. First question, what are you thinking right this second? Could be anything. I'm hungry. This is interesting. Did I leave the oven on? Just notice the thought. Okay, now for question number 2. What are you feeling in your body right now? Scan yourself. Is there a tightness in your shoulders? A warmth in your chest? Maybe your stomach's rumbling? Just try to put a name to whatever physical sensation you find. And now for the big one, the most important question of the 3. Your thoughts were in your mind. The feelings were in your body. But who did you just report all that information to? Who was the one that was listening to those answers? That listener, that is your conscious self. And this is a massive realization. You are not your anger. You are not your fleeting thoughts. You are the consciousness that is aware of them. The source material has this great, kind of funny term for it: the driver in the meat suit. And once you get this, it gives you incredible power.
It means you can watch your internal world without getting totally swept away by it. And from that place of observation, you can actually choose how to respond.
So what is it we're observing? Well, a big part of it is our emotions. And our emotions are really just data. They're messages. One of our sources uses this fantastic Spanish acronym, MATEA, to help us understand what they're for. M, miedo, or fear, is there to protect you. Alegría, or joy, motivates you toward what's good. Tristeza, or sadness, tells you that you need connection and care. Enojo, anger, the one we're so often told is bad, has a vital job. It defends your boundaries. And affecto, affection, is what drives us to connect. Every single one of these feelings is a valid and necessary signal. Okay, so we've looked inward. We found our conscious self, and we understand that our emotions are just valuable messengers. So now what? How do we take that awareness and bring it into our interactions with other people? This is where we get into one of the most important and most misunderstood ideas in relationships today: responsibility. This brings us to a really important term: effective responsibility. You might have heard it thrown around, but let's break down what it really truly means. It's got two essential parts. Part one is about owning your own stuff. I am responsible for my own emotions. Part two is about owning your impact. I am also conscious of how my actions affect you. It's not about trying to control how someone else feels, but it is about acknowledging that what you do has an effect on them. This simple analogy just makes it all click into place. Imagine I accidentally step on your toe. The pain you feel in your toe and how you choose to take care of it, that's yours. That's your responsibility. But my action, the fact that I'm the one who stepped on it, that's my responsibility. I'm not responsible for your pain, but I am absolutely responsible for the action that contributed to it. This little distinction is everything. It shifts us out of the blame game of "you made me feel this" and into a space of agency, accountability, and mutual care. So now that we get what our own responsibility looks like, we can start looking at how we actually structure our relationships. For so long, we've relied on rules, which, when you boil it down, are all about preventing what we're afraid of. But there is a much more powerful, much more connective way to do things: building with agreements. And the difference here is night and day. Rules come from a place of fear. Their whole goal is to control someone else's behavior. It's all about "don't do this or else." It's focused on preventing what you don't want. Agreements, on the other hand, they come from a place of collaboration and trust. Their goal isn't control, it's connection. It's about working together, saying, hey, what kind of amazing relationship do we want to build together? So, what makes an agreement a truly ethical one? Well, it has to have these 5 key ingredients. First, it has to be explicit. It needs to be spoken out loud. Assumed agreements, they just don't exist. Second, it's got to be informed. Everyone needs to have all the important info before they can truly consent. Third, it's specific. Saying yes to one thing does not mean you said yes to everything. Fourth, it has to be reversible. Consent isn't a one-time contract. It can be taken back at any time for any reason. And finally, and this one is the big one, it has to be freely given. If saying no isn't a genuinely safe and available option, then any yes you hear is completely meaningless. Okay, but let's be real. Even with the best agreements and the most self-aware people, relationships are going to have storms. Difficult feelings like grief, jealousy, loss, they're gonna happen. The old script tells us to run from these feelings, to see them as a sign that we've failed. But this ethical framework invites us to see them as something totally different, as valuable, powerful sources of information. Let's talk about grief. Our sources suggest it's so much more than just missing a person. It's a loss of who you were. When a major relationship ends, you don't just lose that other person, you lose the version of you that existed only with them. You lose the inside jokes, the shared memories, the future you were building. The question isn't just, how do I live without you? It's, who even am I now without you? This reframes grief as this incredibly painful but also incredibly powerful process of rediscovering yourself. And then there's jealousy. Probably the most hated, most shamed emotion in all of relationships. We call it toxic, insecure. But what if that's all wrong? What if your jealousy is actually your friend, an ally?
What if it's just an alarm system going off to tell you that something you really, really value, your connection, your sense of security, your special place in someone's life, feels like it's under threat? Your job isn't to silence it or push it down. Your job is to get curious, lean in, and listen to the message it's desperately trying to send you. What need is going unmet? What deep fear has been poked? So, when you put it all together, we've torn down the myths, we've looked inside ourselves, we've learned about real responsibility, and we've reframed our toughest emotions. And what all of that leads to is this incredible, profound sense of freedom. It gives you agency. It's the power to consciously and intentionally build the connections that are actually right for you. This leads us to a whole new way of thinking about love. We're taught that it's this magical, passive feeling that just happens to you, like catching a cold. But this framework gives us a much more powerful definition. Love is an action. It is a choice. It's the conscious, day-by-day decision to build something with another person, to create a shared world that allows both of you to become more than you could ever be apart.
And that really brings us to the final and most crucial point of all. That old script, it was easy. In a weird way, you just had to follow the rules, no questions asked. This new way, this ethical, conscious, aware way of connecting, it takes work. It takes real courage. It takes vulnerability and the willingness to have hard conversations. The sources for this explainer have given us the tools, the blueprints, the whole framework. We have everything we need. You can build the relationships you truly want. The only question left is, do you want to?